Let's talk supply chain. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Let's Talk Supply Chain. So, I always start off with a question. The e commerce market is growing and deliveries are increasing. So, by how much is global delivery traffic projected to rise by 2030? What do you think? Well, let me know your guesses over on social and keep listening because I'll let you know at the end of the show. So, today I'm joined by two guests bringing complementary perspectives in a business and they're absolute pros at last mile delivery solutions. From dispatch to doorstep, OneRail and Adam Eisenberg, Senior VP of Strategic Partnerships at the National Association of Wholesale Distributors. First, OneRail, a leading omni-channel fulfillment solution pairing best-in-class software with logistics as a service to provide dependability and speed to help businesses meet their delivery promise. With a real-time connected network of 12 million drivers, OneRail matches the right vehicle for the right delivery so brands lower expenses and increase capacity to rapidly scale their business. So representing OneRail, I'm thrilled to welcome back Bill Catania, founder and CEO, recently named one of Goldman Sachs' most exceptional entrepreneurs of 2024. Now, today we're going to be talking all about routing. We'll talk about why traditional routing engines no longer work, how exceptions erode profitability in the last mile, and why unification is key. Plus, we'll be exploring how wholesalers are approaching innovation and the human side of automation, and how OneRail is helping lead us all into the future of last mile. Now, Adam, the National Association of Wholesale Distributors, can you give us a little bit of an idea of what you do and who you are? So welcome to the show.
Sarah, thanks so much for having me, Bill. It's always great to see a friend online. NAW, the National Association of Wholesalers, has been in existence since 1946. We are the leading advocacy and government affairs voice for the distributors, whether you're moving computer chips or potato chips or anything in between into your warehouse here in Washington, D.C. The best part about being with NAW for 13 years, as I've been, is that I've seen such a transformation and a continual improvement from the mid-market distributor to the enterprise distributor as they all look to get better and they all look to transform their business and do better for their customers and do better for their suppliers and really employ those digital transformation technology innovators that say, how can I take my business from point A to point B and get them better? And we really heavily rely on industry feedback, on the work that we do here in Washington, but also with wonderful partners like OneRail to really help our distributors know what they don't know and help them really fine-tune their value proposition for their customers and their suppliers.
Awesome. And I think you had a summit last week, an innovation summit, and you're going to be bringing all the perspectives that you gathered from that summit to the conversation today. So it's great to have you here. Now, welcome back to Bill. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. For listeners, just go to letstalksupplychain.com, type in OneRail into the search bar if you want to catch up on any of the episodes that you've missed. We have had over 7 different conversations that you can choose from when it comes to last mile delivery. We've talked about all sorts of things, right, Bill?
And in many places. I think you were in our office last. We've
Yes.
done that at trade shows, different types of trade shows. So yeah, always glad to be with you here, Sarah.
And you always bring great partners onto the show. It's one of the things that I absolutely love about working with you and OneRail is the fact that you really live, and I talk about collaboration being the future of business. It's on the sign behind me. And you really live that mantra. And it's great to just hear how you are bringing the industry together in a variety of different ways.
Yeah, today with Adam here, I had an opportunity to attend and speak at the National Association of Wholesalers show last week. I'm not just saying this because Adam's here, but that is the best show we attend in terms of really identifying with the types of customers that can unlock value with OneRail. We've done it the last several years. We're doing more and more shows every year. The reason we're doing that is because it's working and connecting with potential customers that really can utilize our services. So we appreciate the partnership, and it's truly a partnership.
Well, just for everybody who might not know, can you just give us a quick overview of OneRail? I know I did a little bit at the beginning, but there's so many things that you are working on and innovating. I just want to make sure we catch everything.
I don't think I could do it better than you did it. As I was listening to you, I'm thinking, mic drop, like I'm done here. But no, you did nail it. But what we do specifically, really as an umbrella for all different types of customers, whether it be retail, wholesale, product manufacturers, we enable them with end-to-end fulfillment optimization capabilities. And it starts with inventory and order management and really understanding where is the inventory and then building a transportation plan around that in milliseconds, not an overnight routing solution. It's in milliseconds to be able to connect the order with the right fulfillment mode and then do that really across 400 cities in North America, now Canada. You mentioned our network, that's a really big deal. But what we're really focused on right now is exercising a lot of our horsepower with data science and AI to help internal fleets optimize. And when you take that internal optimization, bolt on third party, you have something really unique. And then over the top of all of that is the human component.
Mhm.
That's something we pride ourselves in. We have over 70 team members that work with our customers to manage exceptions, to make sure deliveries go smoothly when the technology doesn't have a solution, right? And we're now at a point where we're doing enough deliveries. One of our exception management or delivery support professionals can manage upwards of 4,000 deliveries a day. When we started, it was 80. So
Wow.
that's a true, yeah, true signal, from our side that we've really done a lot to build horsepower around data science and AI, and I know we'll get into some of that here.
Yeah, talk about optimized workflows from
Yeah,
80 to 4,000. I mean, that's
yeah,
a big jump. And, if people aren't looking at optimizing their workflows, they definitely need to do that because other companies are going from 80 to 4,000. So
right.
today we're talking about routing, and I want to take a closer look at traditional routing engines, what that means. So, Bill, I want to start with you because I want to ask you to share some of the pitfalls that you typically see, what they look like. And then, Adam, I'm going to come to you to talk about the challenges that your members have.
Yeah, and when we think about routing software, so we've had that as part of our solution from day one, helping internal fleets orchestrate. Advanced Auto Parts, Tractor Supply, they've both been leveraging it for years now. The problem with routing software in general is that it's really just a calculator. It's a calculator, and it's fairly normalized data with only so many paths. And when you think about it, there's a lot more constraints now. Now that there's a tighter SLA window, there's more demands in the wholesale channel specifically. The routing solution has to contemplate many, many, many more variables. And a lot of the solutions that are out there don't really do that. They do a great job calculating you have to go from A to B or to string together the right order of stops if there's 20 stops. But where they struggle is to contemplate all kinds of other variables: labor, overtime, time of day, and sensing traffic patterns and
Yes.
demand peaks. So, what we're doing is unique, I think, to really overcome some of those pitfalls. But um, routing solutions. And it's funny, I just met with a Fortune 500 chief supply chain officer, and he said, Bill, wholesale has typically lagged 5 to 7 years in technology, but now they're really accelerating because when you think about what's going on at the consumer level, all of that all of that acceleration that we've seen the last 5 6 years telegraphs directly up to the wholesale channel, so they have to catch up to what's going on if for same day delivery, for next day delivery. A lot of retailers just want to go from a 3 day to a 2 day, forget same day. So all of that, I call it entropy, is happening, to the consumer. At the consumer level, it telegraphs directly upward, and it puts a lot of pressure on wholesale to deliver.
Yeah, absolutely. Adam, are you seeing this as well amongst your members? What are some of the challenges that you're hearing? What are they facing? Are some of these limitations showing up?
Well, Sarah, that's a great question. And Bill touched on a couple really interesting pain points that distributors are now facing. When you have a generational change in the workforce, where you have so many older baby boomers or younger baby boomers and older Gen Xers really starting to get to retirement age, the backfill of the labor force is really going to be those millennials, those younger millennials, and then you're starting to see your Gen Zers. So when you have people and in an industry that are more accustomed to having digital transformation at their fingertips and on their phone. And I say, well, I can track my packages
Uh-huh.
from any other retailer. Why can't I track my work packages to a job site or to a specific product that I'm tracking for a customer? So when distributors lean into technology, and Bill hit it really on the head, the wholesale distribution industry, as vast as it is, I mean, we're talking about 25% of the US GDP. They are laggers in technology historically, third, fourth, fifth adopters. But now, with the advent of so much technology changing so fast in the marketplace, you're seeing distributors saying, we cannot wait any longer. If we're going to meet our customers where they are, we're going to have to invest and deploy innovative solutions and technologies on the logistics side, on the AP side, on the sales side. We're going to have to look at our business holistically and say, where can we optimize for not only profitability, but also customer success? And I think that when you have a partner like OneRail, it really enables a distributor to take out some of that, maybe not legacy information, but change that legacy transformation and intelligence into actionable steps so that a distributor can see where a more profitable route is, how they can be nimble in their deliveries, and look at the way that they want to communicate to their customers as far as where's my stuff is, and really look at an innovative platform throughout the supply chain. And we're very excited to see not only some of the enterprise level distributors jump on board, but some of those mid-market distributors that might have been much more hesitant to invest in a technology. They look around and they say, the time is now. We have to look at how we're going to invest and get our business better and make our margins more healthier and really improve also the workflows that our internal people have, because managing 80 different deliveries on a spreadsheet is 2002 and unsustainable. When
That's a
you have
nightmare.
so many people doing so many things in the industry, you need innovative technologies, and we're really happy to partner with OneRail on so many different things for that.
Yeah, what a nightmare. I mean, how many versions? What version are we on? Is it 52, 63? Upload,
Right.
download. Where are we missing a delivery? But two key things there that you said, I think, is internal operations. You talked about external, but also internal. Your internal team members are going to demand this from the company moving forward. And
Absolutely.
that is happening now. They want to be able to do their job better and quickly, and they want to be efficient. And so they're going to demand this. But I think also the knowledge, we have to capture that knowledge. I was talking to somebody about this the other day, because I'm actually going through a bit of a digital transformation in my own business. And one of the ladies was like, all of it's in your head. We need to get it out of your head and we need to put it into the software and the technology that we're working with. And it's so true, right? A lot of the knowledge has been in the team members' heads and things like that. And if they're going to retire, we need to make sure that we're capturing that information and making sure that we can all use it for the better moving forward with the technology. So, what does all of this mean for business? What's the impact of having an engine that isn't really considering all the inputs that matter to a modern business? Bill, I'm going to ask you to answer this one.
Yeah. So, well, one thing before I do, Adam, I have to tell you, I was blown away. It was last year, the 2024 NAW conference in Austin, and there was one of your CEOs was on stage, CEOs of a major distribution company, multi-billion-dollar distributor, talking about endless aisle. And I thought, where am I? Am I at NRF? Like the fact that the term endless aisle is being used in the wholesale channel says a lot about how the wholesale channel is thinking.
Hmm.
They're right square either at the beginning or in the middle of their transformation, and that is something that stuck with me for the last year. So I'm sorry, I had to point that out, Sarah,
Oh,
because it
great
was
point, Bill.
yeah, it's a sign of the times, and it's a great sign of the times. And that really parlays into the inputs. So the inputs and the constraints around being able to optimize, it comes back to being able to triangulate inventory, order, and transportation, and around the nodes. And that's really where I think some of the constraints are holding back the innovation in the wholesale channel. There's even a lot of honestly, in the wholesale channel, I'm seeing a lot of challenges just around dims and weights. So that to me is the root of being able to optimize. If you can't measure your dims and weights, then it's
Hmm.
really difficult to start matching orders to the right vehicles.
Right.
And
Well,
from my
especially,
yeah,
sorry, especially if you
no,
get that
no,
wrong. I mean, I come from a logistics background, and I'll tell you, weights and dims were the bane of my existence, right? Because you're calculating and using a calculator to try to figure this out. But
yeah.
then if you're giving that load to a trucking company or you're putting that load on a truck and there is a variance of even a small amount, that means that there could be shifting in that truck, and those are safety concerns.
Yeah, it's safety and and it's also for us the root of how our platform works. We're looking at the aggregate of all the cube and the weight, and then that's how we match a delivery both internally and externally. So if we can't do that, it's really back to
Right.
manual square one of selecting an asset because you think it's about the right size. So that to me is the root cause of a lot of inefficiencies. But then when it gets beyond that, it's all of the parameters around changing a route. It's the what I call a route exception, and that's where without data science and real-time optimization, it's really tough to be efficient. So if I'm a router, I'm working in a warehouse, and I find out there's an order I have to get on a route, and there's four routes. How do I know exactly which route and which stop? And maybe it's actually cheaper to put it on a courier, right, than put it
Right.
on my own truck. Those are also some of the triangulation of data points that you just can't do in the human mind.
Mm-mm.
And a lot of routers, they have tremendous experience, 20, 30 years, but that's why we have data science, right? To see dimensions of data that you can't see with the human eye. And what we're finding is there's a significant cost impact to manual routing exceptions. And that's really where I think a lot of the value is locked, for all types of internal fleets.
So when you talk about how, like, is that eroding some of the profitability? What does that mean to businesses? Can you give us a bit of an example of what percentage or that profitability erosion that you're seeing?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's really only one direction things can go. They have to go faster and cheaper. Like
Hmm.
that, there is no slower and more expensive, right? Everybody's optimizing for faster, less cost, and more accuracy, right? That's the third component. So the challenge is you're just not able to see all the dimensions, and you may be overserving if you're a wholesaler, for example, you might be overserving a bottom decile customer. You
Hmm.
might be making an expensive decision to break a route that the calculator calculated, without optimization, just good old routing. It's not going to tell you, hey, router, if you make this decision, it's going to cost $96.
Right.
There's no reinforcement of that in the moment. So
Hmm.
if I'm a CFO and I have 150 DCs and I have two routers in every DC, I have 300 routers and they're making decisions in their own little silo, it's
Hmm.
impossible to be efficient.
Right.
And that's what, if I'm a CFO, if I'm a chief supply chain officer, I am exceptionally excited, to find out that there's a way not only to reinforce the cost to my team, but then to hold accountability to that and put some programs around that to motivate behavior. Perhaps it's an incentive program to minimize the cost of routing exceptions. And then to really be able to put around that a segmentation based approach that says, hey, if this is a top decile customer, we're going to give some leeway as to what that cost might be. It
Right.
means that we will spend 96 additional dollars because they're a top decile margin customer. But if it's a
Right.
customer that's an occasional customer, maybe we're not going to do that, or we're going to put it on a different route, or we do it tomorrow. So it's being able to move those levers in real time, though. That's the key. And that's the difference between, I think, the visibility era and the actionable insights era, which
Yeah.
which is where we are today. It's actionable, it's real time, it's now.
Well, and also when you're talking about that, think about how empowered the team will feel.
Absolutely.
Right, because they're making
Yeah.
the right decisions and they know that they're not costing the company or the bit. Nobody has that intention
Right.
of
Nobody
being
wakes
like,
up. Yeah.
I'm
Well,
gonna, spend $96 on this delivery when I know I can spend $35 over here. It's really just a matter of having the right tools. But then also we think about technology being an investment. But when you're saving that kind of time and money by the decisions that you're making, really, it kind of comes out in the wash. Adam, you are nodding your head like crazy. So I want to bring you in here because I know you got some great things to say.
I mean, when you look at what a distributor does, they're a zero-sum defect company with most of their money tied up in inventory and accounts receivable,
Yeah.
meaning that the people are some of the most important assets. And Sarah, you brought it up really, really nicely, where it's like nobody wants to do a bad job at work.
Right.
So if we're able to streamline communication by saying, "Dear Mr. and Mrs. Router, if we implement this software, you're going to be able to serve your customers more effectively, more efficiently, and make a direct impact on the profitability of where you work."
Hmm.
How is that not something that people are going to jump into an opportunity with both legs, both arms, and bring one of their friends with them? Now, when you take that a step further and say some of these companies are actually employee owned. So when you convey a value proposition to your employees by saying, by deploying this technology and investing in this type of optimization, we're going to be able to make ourselves more profitable, which goes to your retirement and because you're a part owner, but also make our customers happier, make our suppliers happier because things are moving off out of our warehouses. Those A and B items, we know they're going to move. But the C items, we can maybe bump those up to a B item by making it more logistically profitable, by making the throughputs easier for us to configure and distribute more effectively. That's something that distributors, it doesn't matter if you're MSC Industrial or if you're a $50 million distributor in Topeka, Kansas. You want your people to lean into the technologies that's going to make their customers happier, make the company more profitable, and then enable you to do a better job. Because Sarah, you said it before, like, God forbid you win the lottery and you're like, "I'm out of here."
I'm out.
That's amazing. You've worked here for 20 years. We're so excited for you. But that tribal knowledge that you have about which customers like deliveries on Mondays, which customers like deliveries every other Tuesday, that type of information and intelligence about your specific business leaves out the door with that employee. With technologies, especially with routing optimizations, you're able to take all of that ingestible knowledge, put it into a repository, and then have some of those newer employees come in and say, "Oh, this makes total sense. We don't need to be spending $94 here. We can use a third party that is sound and tested and really deliver value for our customers and our manufacturing partners without even batting an eye." And then, like Bill said, really have a specific and dedicated person to the top tier one customers so that they feel the touch and the love that the distributor has come to understand and that they know they're going to get from working with that trusted partner.
And,
Yeah.
and Adam, if you don't mind, let me jump in there.
Please.
Sarah, you and I talked about this, I think, in our last visit. Change management is the biggest challenge, and everything Adam just said ties back to the psychology of change management because you know what? We could automate all of this. We don't have to reinforce anything. We could just do it. And then the router sits there and says, "Well, what's my job?" And there still is a need for some human oversight, but then they don't feel like they're in control because they're not. And so what we've done is we've tried to find that balance of leverage data science and AI, put it over the top of a dinosaur, and then give that router the ability to make a decision. And it's totally an empowerment play, right? If
Hmm.
you're the chief supply chain officer, that's one of your biggest challenges. Will my associates embrace this? Will they adopt it? Can I win their heart? Not just their mind. And Adam, you nailed that. That's what we see on our end is that we deal with the change management side of it every day, and
Yeah.
that's
Well, and
that's the challenge.
I think what I'm
Yeah.
hearing as well is that it really lends itself to create better relationships. If we take all of the friction out
Yeah.
of it, think about the relationships that you can make internally, that you can make externally with customers and vendors. This is what the human experience and what organizations really need is humans developing relationships. And when you take out the friction, everybody feels better. And we
Yeah.
can have more conversations. But I think the other part of this too is you can ask better questions. So it may have been set up this way. And then, your job is really to take a look at that and sort of ask some really good questions. So, does this really make sense? Or why do we deliver this on a Wednesday? Why do you actually need this delivered on a Wednesday? What does that mean to you? What does that look like? And then we can start playing around with scenarios and we
Right.
can then even optimize even better. And so, those are the two things out of what you've both just said, which I think is incredible. Um, that I can see really come into play with the change management, but also the human experience that we all want to have in our personal and our professional lives and building those relationships out. Now, Adam, I want to ask you because delivery expectations are kind of rising, right? I feel like everybody is looking for delivery yesterday. How are your wholesalers balancing the rising delivery expectations with the costs, some of the cost pressures that they face? We all know costs are going up. But especially there's specific sectors like industrial supply, food service, consumer products. Can you talk to us
Absolutely.
a little bit about that?
So happy to do that. But before I do that, I want to kind of segue back into what you mentioned before about people making informed decisions. And people want to make informed decisions, but the newer employees that we're seeing at our distributors, they need data, they need
Mhm.
intelligence. And when you have a software and a partner that provides you real-time intelligence around whether it's SKU count or routing optimization or AP processing, that's how people are going to make informed, intelligent decisions to drive their business forward. Now, when you talk about business impacting and how people are doing with same day, next day, overnight shipping, I hate to tell you, Sarah, distributors have been doing this forever. They were way ahead of the curve when it came to same day or next day delivery, because if you're building a structure, you need that rebar, you need that concrete, you need that roofing tile. Those types of opportunities and working with suppliers and distributors has always been there. Now, with the advent of technology, you're able to actually track and make it a more profitable optimization to be able to give visibility to the end customer as a distributor. So instead of just saying, hey, trust me, it's going to be there on Wednesday at 2 o'clock, I know my guys are going to get there to you. The customer is able to pull up an app or go to their PO and say, where's my stuff? And
Mm.
they're able to plan more effectively and more efficiently so that, I don't know about you, but my wife and I have done a home renovation before. I'm sure Bill, you and Lisa have, and it's just like, oh, this project's going to take 12 months. It's
Mhm.
always going
Yeah.
to take 18 months, right? Well,
Mhm.
there's a carrying cost associated with that extra 6 months.
Mhm.
So if you're doing a massive construction project, you want to be the hero and you want to say, hey, this is how delivery is going to work. It's going to make everybody on time. So distributors are leaning into technologies that are going to help them provide a better visibility to their customers and for their employees, so that that's kind of what we're seeing in the marketplace. So distributors are always conscious about how they put cost into the supply chain and
Mhm.
where it makes sense to do so. So
Mm.
distributors have been dealing with, next day and same day forever. They just have the visibility with specific technologies to help them do it more effectively with better data points and really paint the picture of a specific opportunity for a customer as well as for their supplier partners.
Yeah. Well, and swapping that cost of that 6 months, right? Like, what does
Yeah.
that cost
Right.
everybody? And then do we take that and pour that into the investment of technology, which was what we were talking about before? You brought up, I think you triggered me when you were talking about the renovation because during the pandemic, it took me like 9 months to get a couch. So you
Wow.
triggered me with that statement, and I was like, "Oh yeah, it took me 9 months to get a couch." And there's lost opportunities there. So Bill, I want to talk to you a little bit about that too, because everybody is talking about tech stacks, and they're talking about the investments that they're making in technology and what their tech stacks look like and how they integrate. But I read somewhere that you've said today many dispatchers swivel chair between systems, and I think that has to do with tech stacks. What do you mean by that? How did we get into this swivel position, and why is that such a big problem?
The AS400. That's probably green screen. No, I go back to the very beginning of my journey when I was talking to my first customer who was a large tire wholesaler, and I was doing some time study in warehouses. And we built a solution that was completely automated. There was no need to do anything really. And what we learned when we were trying to capture how much time does a dispatcher spend in a warehouse looking at an order, and then what do they do with it? And what we found was they'll get an order here on this screen, an AS400, or it doesn't have to be an AS400. That's probably not really an outlier. It's kind of normal. But then once they get that order, then they swivel over here to an interface. And this is really common for delivery, not necessarily LTL and FTL, but for same day or next day courier delivery, they would enter it into an interface of a courier. So Roadie or Curry or whomever, dispatch. And so that swivel moment, it takes a lot of time. It's
Mm.
very inefficient. It's not always accurate. So the swivel chair, it's not something that's just constrained, to delivery. We're seeing it with order management. We're seeing it with all types of systems of record. So the ability to automate, it really makes that go away. And we see automated dispatch as being one of the highest priorities of most of the companies that we're engaging with. They want their dispatcher to focus on higher value activities than that.
Well, and I think the other part of this is they don't want to see them signing into all sorts of different
Yeah,
platforms
exactly.
either. Right. So when we think
Exactly.
about tech stack, it's not necessarily just our internal tech stack. We also have to think about the different platforms and the different technologies that our teams are using to gather the information and the data that might not actually be integrated and having all of these sign-ins for all of these platforms.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And go back to the example of I'm a router, I'm working within my internal fleet, and then I make a decision, not the platform, that I need to put a delivery on a courier.
Right.
Then I swivel. I do it over here. That data doesn't end up back over here.
Right.
Times that data is not going back into a system of record. A lot of times it's just living in whichever, DoorDash or
Mm-hmm.
uh, GoShare or whatever platform I'm in. So the challenge then, if again you're at the CFO level, you're at the chief supply chain officer level, it's hard now to match what is my cost to serve a customer.
Right.
Because if that data stays over here, yeah, you can mash it up with Google Sheets and all kinds of stuff, but that's just error in time.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to have all of that in the same place is really optimal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I could totally see that because I remember my logistics days, having to sign into different different platforms just to figure out where a container was or, whether a ship is docked or anything like that. Now, Adam, I want to bring you into this conversation because I think from your perspective, what innovative distribution strategies or maybe even technologies are your members adopting to help improve the last mile and the fulfillment and maybe some of these challenges that Bill has just talked about?
So the one thing that I really appreciate over the past probably 3 to 5 years is how NAW's executive team and leadership has really put a forefront, a really big push into pushing our members to actually adopt innovative software. And when you look at a distributor that's operating on, by and large, 2 to 3% gross margins, and we keep on asking them to do digital transformation, you have to invest in technology. They look at us and they say, you want us to boil the ocean. We don't know where to start. So what we've
Yeah.
done is we've said, okay, let's scrap that idea. Can you boil a glass of water? Yeah, I think I can boil a glass of water. Okay. So let's create a curated opportunity where we bring innovative technologies and solutions providers that are pushing the envelope on last mile delivery, on sales enablement, on anything, any type of optimization that could deal with making your distributor more profitable. Let's bring them into one place. And that's when we're able to see a company like OneRail really come to the forefront and say, this is what we're doing, and this is how we're helping you solve a problem that you have. And we know you have it because that distributor has it, that distributor has it, that distributor has it. And it doesn't matter what you're putting through your warehouse, we can help you do it better. So when you have the opportunity to work with, and Bill mentioned a couple of the other ones, the Currys of the world, and some of the dispatches, the distributors are starting to see, and like you said, it's bubbling up from the internal, right? The
Yeah.
actual people that are doing the routing saying, I hate going from my WMS to my ERP to my
Right.
TMS. And now I don't remember what I put in this screen. And now I have to switch screens. I have to go over here. Why is that way? I can do this at home on a Google Sheet or something, and everything's all together. Can't work be like my home life?
Right.
And it takes a minute for innovators like Bill to say, hey, there's got to be a better way to do this. So we're so excited to continue to look at the innovation sectors in the different areas of the country and say, who's focused in B2B and how can we bring them into our community and really help our distributors become bigger and better and faster and stronger.
But also not a partner just for today, but a partner for the future. Like you
Oh,
want to
it's
make
it's
sure
all
that you're
about
bringing
growth.
those partners in that are looking to solve for today, but also thinking about what does that future look like for our members and knowing that they're going to solve for that. And I think Bill and his team at OneRail really do a great job of that.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
absolutely.
So, Bill, I want to talk to you a little bit about what you are offering those members, right? Because you're uniquely positioned to lead the future of last mile, like I just talked about. Why is the network as important as the software, and how do you see the future? How do you see working with these members? How do you see a one rail evolving?
Yeah, so it really starts with the fact that we're able to have oversight over so many different types of deliveries. Over the past 5, 6 years, we've produced data on hundreds of millions of deliveries. So we've been building a data science team, an AI team around that, which is now approaching 15 team members. So it's a very significant part of our business. With that data, we have the ability to optimize in ways that you wouldn't otherwise, right? And I think another thing is our network. We have a large network that allows us to execute,
Mhm.
not just connect to a courier, but to actually pick a courier because of price and quality. We have algorithms around quality by time of day, by zip code, by type of SKU. So when we're matching a delivery, it's
Mm.
extremely informed. So if you can imagine, we have reams of data, we have a network, we have pricing, and then I think the last component is we've built an amazing platform that really normalizes data, whether it's an internal fleet or external fleet delivery. So you don't have to have two customer experiences. And that's what we found. That's another byproduct of swivel chair is when I do swivel chair, then there's probably going to be different types of messages going to an end customer, whether it's tracking or statuses or proof of delivery, photo evidence, etc. So imagine now normalizing all that data, executing seamlessly the same way, whether it's internal or external, having that data science team. And what that's allowed us to do, Sarah, is build really two things. If I could pick two things that are the most important two things, it's the ability for that router, when they're routing, to see an exception and to understand the cost,
Right.
and then to be able to help them place that delivery on the right route that minimizes cost in such a way that it's real time.
Hmm.
And then the second thing that I think is most important is taking that whole courier experience and putting it in the routing engine, being able to actually dispatch to a courier when it's too expensive to go on your own truck or it's going to break SLA, being able to weave that together so you don't have to swivel chair. You can stay right here. All the data is there. And then the optimization is all coming out of the same engine. And I think it's really important too to note this is supplementary to a routing engine. We're not going out there trying to rip and replace routing systems. Routing systems work. It's just that they're not contemplating enough variables. And I think the closest thing I can relate it to is HubSpot. Why does HubSpot exist if there's Salesforce?
Right.
Salesforce is the system of record. Yes, it is. But HubSpot is a marketing engine that does a lot of things that Salesforce doesn't do,
Hmm.
that's not user friendly. And that's really what we're designed to do is
Yeah.
take that routing engine and put it on steroids, put it on high octane fuel.
Yeah.
Um, and then I guess the last component, and it's sort of it ties into our platform. We can contemplate many, many more parameters to optimize around, and it's customizable. So being able to optimize, if you have an overtime problem, if you're in a certain state, you have maybe a different labor contract, the ability to optimize around labor is a
Hmm.
big deal.
Yeah, it touches a lot of different components internally as well. And you and I talked or spoke on the last episode about internal fleets versus external fleets and how important both of
Yeah,
those can be to an organization, but that it has to be organized. Because if it's not organized, you're right, we're
right.
swiveling, we're signing in, we're signing out, we're moving data in ways that we don't really want to move data because there's going to be mistakes, there's going to be gaps, there's going to be all sorts of things that are going to happen.
Right, right. That's exactly right. So it's a chief supply chain officer's best friend because it allows that professional to let their team do their job, but be more accountable, to leverage external partners, courier partners that they have relationships with, and then bring their data back in and make sense of it and apply it where it needs to be applied. So it's a CFO's best friend, it's a chief supply chain officer's best friend. Quite frankly, it should be a router's best friend
Mhm.
because now they have the ability to work on higher level activities and have more levers. Like you said, everybody wants to be successful. Nobody
Mhm.
wants to be bad at their job, and this just gives more tools.
Yeah, nobody wants to spend $96 when they can spend $35. I can
Exactly.
guarantee that. Now, Adam, I want to bring you into the conversation and talk a little bit about the future for what that looks like for NAW's member base. I mean, I talk a lot about collaboration. You talk a lot about partnerships, which I love to hear because I think that's really the future. How do you think partnerships between wholesalers, carriers, technology providers, how does that shape the future of last mile, and how does that really set a foundation for your members?
I think it continues to evolve, Sarah. I think when you have distributors that are continuing to move their evolution forward on what they're able to provide their customers, how they're able to bring new SKUs and new products to market, it's really a trusted relationship between a
Hmm.
supplier, a distributor, and a end customer. And the only way that that partnership is really successful is through the advent of technology and making things more accessible, more data points, more real and in real time. And I think that the way distributors continue to evolve and grow with their technology partners just proves that this industry is on an upswing. This industry is not stagnant. This industry looks at ways to innovate smartly where it makes sense. They're not just innovating to innovate. So you're not going to see a bunch of robots roaming around a warehouse every now and again. But when you talk about, like Bill was talking about, the things in the aisles, so many distributors, where it makes sense, are innovating in their warehouse where it's goods to person and not persons to good.
Yeah.
So you're having robots roam around warehouses and making people pick, pack, and ship smarter. When you look at how you're delivering your shipments, you're looking at them and looking at them as a more cost-effective option, which is really something that distributors continue to lean into. So when distributors look at every aspect of their business, logistics, sales, finance, executive leadership, they look at how we can do it more technologically streamlined. And that just makes people really stand up and say, even though my company was founded in 1946, we are operating like a tech firm. We are not operating like somebody that had a horse and buggy that's roaming down the streets asking people if they want apples or fasteners.
Right.
I'm working for a technology company that actually distributes things. So
Mhm.
we're incredibly excited about the different opportunities that technology brings to our industry. And our distributors are not only latching onto it, they're actually asking for more of it.
Well, and I think it's important to have that safe space for conversation about and real conversation about what works, what doesn't work. What have you tried? What have we tried?
Yep.
What does that look like? How do we come together? How do we have these real conversations so that we can move forward into the future as an industry? You know what I mean? And I think
There,
that
the
you guys
one thing
provide
that,
that.
that's a really great point, and the one thing that I really appreciate about the innovators that we invite into our community is they focus in distribution.
Right.
They actually have a focus to say, we don't want to do retail. We can do retail, but we're not
Right.
interested in manufacturing. We're looking at the guys and the gals in the middle of the supply chain and saying, how can we help you make better decisions at a faster rate with
Mhm.
less errors for more profitability? And we have a focus in B2B. That's something that we are incredibly proud and very, very appreciative of the people like the OneRails and the Currys and all the different technology partners that we're able to utilize to help our distributor members make really informed decisions, because these are people that are investing in B2B, and our members are incredibly appreciative of that investment.
Yeah, and it strengthens the industry. All right, Bill, I'm going to give you the last word on this. Well, kind of the last word, because I do have to go through a little bit after this. But what does the future of last mile look like? What should we be keeping an eye on going into the last bit of 2025, but thinking about 2026? And I know I always put you on the spot with your crystal ball.
Well, I think it's actually becoming a lot clearer. We have seen so much movement in the last 12 months in this space. Anytime I have a startup, I think I'm late. And then you realize, hey, I'm not late. The market's actually coming to us now. And my last company was a digital coupon platform, and I thought I was late to the party, and it actually took 5 more years for the party to start. So this is a little different, but what we're seeing when I say the market is coming to us as a last mile provider, we're seeing more RFPs, we're seeing more transformation conversations happening. And where I see my earliest customers, who adopted our technology 4 or 5 years ago, they're now saying, hey, I want one optimization engine for everything. I want
Wow.
internal fleet, external fleet. I want multimodal, and I just want the optimizer to decide how to send it. I no longer care that I have a 20-year relationship with a parcel provider. I
Mm,
no longer care that my buddy went to University of Georgia and he runs a courier business. I care that I'm hitting SLA, I'm doing it exceptionally every time and on budget, and that I can delight my customer. And it doesn't matter if it's wholesale or retail. It's the same problem. It's one optimization engine. And
mhm.
what that means, tying it back to the tech stack, it means you don't have to change anything. It means you bolt on, because there's no one system of record that can do that. You need an optimizer, and we're one of them. There's more than one out there. You need to look at the market and understand how can you have one holistic view of your last mile. That's the only way to be efficient. And again, last point on this, the concept of caring less that it's internal, if external can do it faster and cheaper and just as good, is something we're starting to see. And look, there's a trust that builds with your, you lead with your delivery network, and that's an asset, and it's something that a lot of wholesalers are very proud of. But I think what they also realize is there's a crossroads here moment and a balance where, yes, you put your best foot forward with your own fleet, but if you have the data and the telemetry to tell you that it's being done just as well, you can trust it. And that's kind of where we've seen
Yeah.
the market go. And I think it'll keep going that direction.
Well, and also, what type of company do you want to be? Right?
Right,
Because Adam said earlier, a technology company that distributes or a technology company that
right.
that is a wholesaler. But then also, if you have that internal fleet, you're then also a trucking company. And so at some point,
Yeah,
we have to decide who we are and who we want to be in the market. So I
yep,
appreciate you for bringing that up. And I think it's definitely something that folks can think about, professionals can think about, leaders can think about going into 2026. So I certainly remember routing the old-fashioned way. So I know how much impact automation, AI powered approach can have. But to hear you talk about the human side of automation and actually using technology to amplify human strengths, that's really where the magic happens. And I think that's what is going to set the businesses doing that apart. So, did you have a guess at today's big question? Well, at the top of the show, I asked you by how much is global delivery traffic projected to rise by 2030? Well, it's a huge 32%. And with that growth will come cost and sustainability issues. So just think about how AI powered routing can help reduce the impact for your business. So if you're looking for a partner that provides an innovative last mile delivery solution, but still maintains that human touch, head over to onerail.com to learn more. And remember to subscribe, rate, review the show. Check out more content from the best and the brightest over at letstalksupplychain.com. We've got some incredible guests, innovative strategies, and transformative solutions you can't afford to miss. Adam, where can everybody find you?
So the NAW is going to be hosting our Super Bowl distribution at the end of January here in Washington, D.C. This is something where I'd love to say this, and it's really kind of just what the NAW is about. We don't do trade shows. We are not interested in that type of opportunity, but the opportunity to rub elbows with the leading distributors, the C-suite executives, the people that are actually moving the industry forward is here at NAW at the Executive Summit, January 26th to the 28th. Go to naw.org and check it out. We have a wonderful keynote speaker that I think most people are going to find thoroughly, thoroughly interesting. So I'll leave
Love
it
it.
there. But Sarah, this was a wonderful conversation. Thank you guys so much again.
Love it. Well, a massive thanks to Bill and Adam for joining me today, and to the team at OneRail and National Association of Wholesale Distributors for helping to make this episode happen. Until next time, I'm Sarah Barnes Humphrey, and this is Let's Talk Supply Chain.